Back with the Bible in a minute. Genesis 42. And this chapter is when things really start to heat up. The famine is in full effect. And Egypt has stockpiled the grain. And the famine has now reached Canaan, where Jacob and his kids are living. And so, one of my favorite verses is in verse 1. Jacob looks at his sons and he says, "Why are you staring at each other? There's grain in Egypt. Go down to Egypt." And so they're like, okay, fine. So the 10 brothers, remember there's 12 sons, minus Joseph and minus Benjamin. So the oldest 10 go down to Egypt. And Jacob doesn't send Benjamin because he's afraid something might happen to him, and he's already lost Joseph, Benjamin's older brother. Joseph and Benjamin are from his favorite wife, Rachel. And so they go into the land of Canaan, and the 10 sons of Jacob, they come before Joseph, and they prostrate themselves before him on the ground. It's almost as if Jacob had a dream about that. He did. Genesis 37. He had a dream in verse 6 through 8. We were tying up bundles of wheat in the field, and suddenly my bundle got up by itself and stood upright. Then your bundles came, gathered around mine, and prostrated themselves before it. So the prophecy is not only that the older brothers would bow down before him, but it was connected to a harvest. It was connected to wheat. It was connected to grain. And sure enough, that's what they're going to Egypt searching for. So, but he realizes this. He realizes that these brothers, they don't recognize him because I'm sure he looks very different. He's going to be dressed like an Egyptian. He's going to be speaking Egyptian. And so he speaks harshly to them and accuses them of being spies. And in my opinion, I think he's really trying to root out these brothers to determine, have they changed? Has the experience losing him and seeing the grief that it caused Jacob, has it changed them? Has their heart changed? Have they become different than they were before? And so, he says, are you all from the same father? And he's asking them probing questions. And they say, yeah, we are 12 brothers. 10 of us are before you. One of us was left behind, the youngest, and then one is no more, because they think Joseph is dead. Even though they sold him into slavery, they have no idea what happened to him, and they presume at this point that he's probably dead. And so he basically, Joseph tells him, all right, fine, let one of your brothers stay here, and you can go back and provide the grain until you bring your youngest brother back. And they're like, oh man, God is getting us. God is setting us up for what we did to Joseph. Verse 21, they said to each other, we are in fact guilty concerning our brothers. He was in distress. He pleaded with us. We saw it, and we wouldn't listen. That's why his distress has come upon us now. And Reuben speaks up and he said, didn't I tell you? Because Reuben's plan was to restore Joseph back to Jacob so that he could get back into Jacob's good graces. So anyway, a lot of back and forth between Joseph and the brothers, and he sends them away. And he says, you are not allowed to come back until you bring Benjamin. And Jacob will not. He refuses, because Benjamin is the only remaining son of his favorite wife, Rachel, who has already passed. And so he says, you've robbed me of my children. In verse 36, Joseph is gone. Simon is gone. Simon, or Shimon, is the one that stayed behind. And now you're taking Benjamin away? And he said, it all falls on me. Reuben, I don't know why in the world you would say something like this, but Reuben speaks up and he says, if I don't bring him back to you, you can kill my own 2 sons. As if that would solve anything. He said, put him in my care. I will return him to you. And Jacob replied, and catch this, he says, my son will not go down with you. His brother is dead, and he alone is left. He's got other sons. He's got a daughter too. But Benjamin is so important to Jacob that he refuses to let him go, at least in chapter 42. He says, if something were to happen to him while he was traveling with you, quote, "You would bring my gray hair down to Sheol with grief, to the grave in grief." And so Jacob is absolutely not going to let them take Benjamin until something happens that forces his hand. That is Genesis 42.